Okay, good practice habits. Good practice habits are very important. We have to know when we are practicing what we are trying to achieve. There's maintenance where we stay on what we know so that that doesn't become rusty. And there's practicing new things as well. Good practice habits, maintenance, and stretching out playing. We have to have a goal. That's the most important thing. I remember being at a workshop with a mandolin player friend of mine, and somebody asking what's the most important thing when we're practicing, and that is to have a goal. If every time you sit down you have something very specific to work on, then that's going to be the most important thing. I know we all like to sit down and noodle and play along with records. That's still good practice, but if we have very specific goals, that's the most important thing that we can do when we practice. And when we have specific goals, it's good to be honest with ourselves. Did we nail what we just went for? Because if we didn't, we've got to go back and do it again. And slowing it down so that we can train our fingers to do what we intend for them to do is the most important thing. A friend of mine who has passed away a few years ago, Big Jim Sullivan, London session guitar player, a studio guy, used to play with Tom Jones, played on a lot of records back in the 60s and 70s. I had a couple of lessons with him when I was a kid, and he gave me some of the best advice I ever had, which was think of your four fingers as four little athletes and you are the trainer. Sometimes we get into bad habits. We start off with no habits because we're learning from the get-go, but sometimes we may play a piece of music, we'll come to a difficult passage in that song, and our fingers don't want to behave. Our fingers want to do something else. And I know it's tempting to go back and take a run at it and try and nail that lick again. And you do it 2 or 3 times, you end up making the same mistake because your fingers are already predisposed to doing what the muscles naturally want to do. This is why we need to slow down, is to get out of the bad habits and into the good habit. And we slow down so that we can consciously tell our fingers what to do. Rather than them do what they naturally do, we're slowing it down so that we are very cognitively telling our fingers exactly what to do. Slow it down to as slowly as you need to do that. Good example of this, I remember, and I'll do this in workshops quite a lot. Some of you may know a piece called Cavatina. It was recorded by John Williams and Tommy Tedesco for the movie The Deer Hunter. It was actually a piece written by Stanley Myers, was performed on the piano before that. But as far as the guitar version, it was actually a duet between Tommy Tedesco and John Williams. Then subsequently, John Williams released a solo guitar version of it. So we got a little... there's like a backup part, and there is a melody that goes on top of that. So to play these two at the same time requires a little bit of work to figure out what the best fingerings are. But there was one particular phrase I wanted an extra bass note in that. This bass note, which wasn't in that version. I really wanted to have this. How was I going to play the melody and have this bass note? I had to figure out that fingering. So here's what I came up with. And so on. That was a tough move. My fingers did not want to do that. So I had to take it a stage at a time. This is all okay. Here's the move. Well, I had to take this Here's the arpeggio. That's the arpeggio and the melody. So to make that work, I'll slow it down for you. So I've had to slide up rather, I had to slide up for that melody note. So the first thing I worked on, because that wasn't an easy part to get, was this one move. These two notes, then this. Get that until it's easy. Make sure they're all clean. That takes some strength. That's going to take some good technique to have that nice and strong, a partial bar with our little finger. So that's the first move. The next thing I did was get this. Keep doing it until you get it. Be honest with yourself. Were all the notes clean? Then it was slow it down. Then it's the transitions. That was the next transition. That's the next thing I worked on. Working on all these individual parts, then you slowly piece them together. Then you put it all on one practice loop. This is what's known as widening your practice loop. So you play one small part, then you play the next small part, play it into the next part, and then play before you're playing your problem part. Because it's all very well working on the problem part, but your brain also anticipating that problem part makes you want to rush into it because you know it's tough. You have this you're kind of predisposed to knowing it's a problem and kind of being scared of it. So you end up rushing into it, and now you're rushing into something that is hard to start with. So really it's just about that, a bit of self-control. So let's do it slowly here. And again. You do that as many times as it takes to get it right. My wife's a cello teacher. My wife is a cellist, Julie Adams. She started when she was a child. One of her cello teachers said, play something 20 times in a row perfectly. You've got to do it until you can do it 20 times in a row without messing it up. If you get to number 19 and you mess it up, you've got to go back to number 1 again and get it until you can do it 20 times. Now, this will force you to slow down. This will make sure you're not practicing just for the fun of it. You're practicing because you want it to be right. So you're kind of putting pressure on yourself to get it right. You want to get to that 20. And if you're really tough on yourself, you'll do that. And the point is, it will make you slow down. It will force you to slow down because you want to get it right. If you're really tough on yourself, you don't want to play that 20 times just to play it 20 times. This is a test. So it'll really force you to control it and be in time and be in tune and get it clean, because you want to get it to how you want it to sound. That's the other thing when you're comparing your playing and being honest with yourself. How good does it sound? How good did it sound when somebody else played it? What made you like it? What made you want to learn it to start with? So that's what you're aiming for, is to get it to sound that good. Let's try this on the metronome. That's the other thing I'll talk a little about in a bit. See what we've got. Let's see if we've got a tempo.